All right, hell yeah. So we're able to lower this, and it just works a lot better for the feet, you know what I mean? So that's kind of, when I wedge my feet in, I want, you know what I mean, this to kind of hook in right at the tongue. And if it is this low, then you can angle at your ankle, and so you can drive all the way forward. Now the thing about this is, though, this still has to be really soft foam, where if you do, you know, throw your foot in, yeah, it just has to be super soft. That's all, you know what I mean? And so if I go over here, hell yeah, and then yeah, you just want this taper, you know, so if you are having a lip out here, it's soft for your ankle to hit against, and then you can push and squish into it. But if you do kind of go over here, you know what I mean, it is nice to have something hit right there at the tongue of your shoe, and then also, you know, reaching underneath and gripping with your toe. But this is kind of cool because it really shows that you really don't need a whole lot. And so I'm going to jump to the other side, because I made this side like 5 inches and this side was more like 6 inches. So let's yeah, so that's plenty, and I even don't even need all that 5. So I think even just 4 inches would be enough to get your foot under. In my boat, you know, if I do throw my foot all the way forward, this is 6 inches to there. But I guess from this experiment, what I'm noticing, that if I put my foot sideways, you know what I mean, I can actually get 6 inches under and still pry like that, because I'm typically not going this direction. This is 5 inches currently, and so this could be 4. Keeping this at 6, you know what I mean, so you can just jam it. That I want to keep. And then, you know what I mean, if it is asymmetric, you could still have a cavern back here underneath this thwart. It doesn't have to be symmetric, but I don't know. It's like, it seems like a symmetric boat for doing spins would make sense. But yeah, I would be fine with having a cavern back here, just because if I do have my feet, you know, I want to throw this ankle under just a bit. I think that would be better than just not having anything. And then so if I did want to get my ankle under right there, I would have a little bit more purchase. And then here, I was thinking about being able to get your whole foot sideways, but if I reduce this to 4 inches, you know what I mean, I think just getting the foot underneath, like right there, is pretty good. And then just turn it, and you're already in your pretty good position. I do paddle like this, where this foot is just out like this, you know what I mean, and it's not really attached to anything. But this gives me a quick ability to grip in if I needed to. So I think I would reduce this to 4 inches and keep the cockpit at 21. I'm satisfied with that, just because if I am back here, you know, I can still reach. But maybe I can actually, maybe it doesn't matter, because now if I'm way back here in the cockpit, I can still grip in on the sides. That was the whole point, is if I'm back here at the 3/4, I can grip over here and I'm still gripped. And the other aspect was, if I am towards the back of the boat, I can still have my feet. Yeah, and this actually works pretty good. If this is very low and I have a taper, a strong taper for my foot, I was thinking about making, you know, at least footwells here, maybe even bringing this back a little bit. So I'm thinking bring this back and then taper it, and then that will allow me, you know, it allows you to do the moves from the back of the boat. And that was very important to me from this design, even though it seems like I almost messed it up, because it's still quite a long boat for being supposedly a short boat. It's 7.5 feet length, and this is what I want. You want to be able to do all your stern maneuvers without moving your feet into a back compartment. And so all of this is just going to be solid, foamed out. You know, so I'm gonna have my bench seat, but I can just start carving out whatever I want. And so it'll be kind of interesting. I think I'm okay with this, you know, using kind of this harder foam material. Like at this point, weight shouldn't matter, because I think at this point I'm not going to fiberglass the cockpit in. I would never fiberglass this cockpit in. What I would do is fiberglass the boat and then be able to experiment with different cockpits, because that's so specialized. Alright, so hell yeah. So that means that we're pretty much here. We're able to paddle from the back of the boat. We kind of figured out what we want for our feet. We really only need 4 inches and maybe even less, you know what I mean, like 3 inches on the side. Because even like right here, when I'm, you know, if my feet are out, I'm really solid just kind of pushing sideways on these. Well, that's from the back position. So if I'm in a position like there, but still if I'm in a position like right here, I'm just pushing out sideways. So that is a new way to brace in an R1. Like pushing your just feet out to the side. That was really important to me compared to the standard 1 foot there and then this foot just not doing anything. And that's why I thought I had to go underneath, but I think I can actually get this real low and then literally only have like a 3-inch lip. And I can even work on that on my boat, and that's kind of interesting. And for larger cockpits like the RMR Thundercloud, it's a distance. If I'm over here in this position, like I can't even get my foot over there. So just to have, you know, something off the side, and so that's where it can come out. It can come out as much as it's needed. It's just that if this is soft, it would be way better. Like a rigid connection, you know, but then soft foam that, you know, kind of folds up, and that would be way better. Okay, hell yeah. Alright, I'm done with this, but thanks for joining me. And hell yeah. And I think, yeah, and this makes sense now, because this is what I was thinking even with the RMR Fat Cat. Like if I did a modification to the RMR Fat Cat to have better footholds, it would be something like this. Foam out the side, you know, all around, and then you have places to anchor your feet. And it doesn't, you know what I mean, and it doesn't have to be that far out. So this was an experiment with 6 inches and 5 inches, and I think you could even just do 3 of soft foam. Obviously on a rubber boat, attaching 3 inches out, you know, of cantilevered foam would be stronger. However, if you glued it in or something, then you know, having 6 and 5 inches. Alright, hell yeah. Sorry, I think I'm done. Thanks for joining me. Booyah. Alright, hell yeah. So we got this all laid out, and this seat height can be as high as we want, but we're going to round it over, you know what I mean? So this was just kind of simulating the width of the thwarts, and then so we can kind of round all the corners over. I'm going to do a test. Hopefully you can kind of see down in here. Hell yeah. Now one thing with this design, we reduced the width to 19 inches. So like this depth is only 19, and so this would be, yeah, I guess it's only 19, but I did make these cutaways, and so I can get my foot all the way in there. And so I haven't foamed out this, but essentially my foot would go underneath here and wedge. This would be simulating the front thwart. Now, if I am in this position and I go to here, then I can push my foot up against here, and then I can, you know, have it secure up against foam. And so this high density foam is too high density, where definitely would want softer foam, because even like right here, this is a pretty sharp corner. Hell yeah. But I was just kind of experimenting with that. Do I want my foot to go, you know, into that corner? You know what I mean? Or how deep do I want it to go into that corner? I can foam that out, because, you know what I mean, R1 boats are so wide anyway that if you are edged out to here and you go reach for that corner, maybe you just want it a couple inches in, but then locked in, so I can have this grip to pull me back. Now, I don't have any foam in here, so there's nothing to like grip onto, but let's try like if I was over here. See, I can go get my toe into this corner right here. And especially if I'm back on this 3/4 position, I can't reach underneath the thwart. You know what I mean? And so, but I can reach over here and then pull against that. So at some point, like right in here, I would want it to be narrower so I can get my foot, this way. But then if I'm paddling, back in this corner, kind of have a little pocket. Now the other thing though is like all this has to be like, I think, super soft, like almost like sponge-like, because the risk of having your foot in here, you know what I mean, and then getting thrown this direction, all of this has to yield. And so that's the issue, kind of with R1 boats, is if you do have your foot locked in, you can totally just break your shin, you know what I mean, break any bone from femur down to your ankle. Hell yeah. So just looking at this sharp cutaway is too sharp. And so now I'm kind of just, and I really shouldn't put too much strength into it. Well, I guess I shouldn't put too much effort into this cockpit, but I still have to figure out exactly kind of where I want it. And so I'm satisfied with this. And then let's go to this other side. I kind of have this a little bit narrower. Sorry you can't see, but hell yeah. So yeah, that feels pretty good. And then the other thing that I noticed right away is it's nice to have this vacated behind the rear thwart. So the rear thwart is essentially just like the front thwart, you know what I mean? And so I can get my foot under there. Now, since this is the rear, I don't have to have my foot, I don't have to have it where you wedge your feet in, and it's, sucked up against your toes. I can have this more of a vacant area, and so I, have to lift the toes higher. But the benefit of that is that I can push my foot underneath this thwart. And so this is going to be important for the testing to see if this cockpit is really only about 18.5 inches, from here, and then I think we did 21 inches this way. And so what we did is we took the cockpit that I'm used to, and then we reduced it by 6 inches. So 19 now compared to 25. And then we kept this 21 with 6 inches of underneath the thwart, and then we increased this because now we can get back here, get that position back here. But with a shorter boat, because I'm going to foam all this in, if I was sitting like right here, and then see even this boat is still too big, because if I do get back onto this, you know what I mean, like my feet are now nowhere, I don't have any connection to the boat anymore. Like I can't get my feet flat. And so this seems, it seems like I just built the same boat. But surprisingly, this boat is only 7.5 feet. And so what I see like right now is if I do, want to be back here, I just need to cut out a couple inches. You know what I mean? And so I've actually kind of thought about that, where if you are back here, you can do cutaways right here, and because your feet are going to be out to the side, and you can still have a seated platform, like right here. So if you are, you know what I mean, struggling with words. But yeah, this bench seat doesn't have to be just straight across. And so yeah, that's something that I would, and even if this was fiberglassed out, hell yeah. And so I think I'm kind of right in that stage of like, well, I think I fiberglass this boat and then do the drop-in cockpits, because the cockpit is the thing that I have no idea what I want in a cockpit, and it's super easy just to foam it out, and it needs to be soft anyway. You know what I mean? What I'm learning right now is that, you know what I mean, these sharp corners totally suck. But I think, you know, I don't think these sharp corners are going to get in too much of the way of the final design, because I can soft foam in here, and you know, when my foot is over here, because even this, well, it's hard to, yeah. Oh yeah, and that was the deal. This was supposed to be almost at 4 inches of height, like where, like your ankle bends, like right there. So that was the thing I was experimenting with. Do I want my whole foot under here, or do I just want this to be a place to just jam my toes? And I think it seems more reasonable just as a place to jam your toes. And so yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll probably experiment dropping this lower. Yeah, that'll probably be the next thing. Because yeah, this is too sharp. And hell yeah. Alright, so I'm just thinking on my feet. I think I'm going to be done with this, because obviously, yeah, lower it, come up with better ideas. The fact that this is so sharp, it's too sharp. You do need some rigidity for your feet, but I don't think you need a whole lot. Like that rigidity can be at the attachment, and as the foam comes out, you know, it can be soft and give. And so, alright, hell yeah. But yeah, I'm not disappointed with the way this experiment turned out. And so, you know what I mean? I just thought that would be yeah, those are too high anyway. Yeah, that height got away on me. But it would be fine if it was totally cushy. You know what I mean? If this was all cushy through here, yeah, that, I mean, because at some point this is going to be the shape of it anyway. But it doesn't have to be, because if this is at the 4-inch mark, or just, you know what I mean, like almost, yeah, basically 3 inches off the ground, 3 to 4, you know, very low, then this whole thing can taper. So it still can be low and soft around the edge, but then it's going to taper up, because the most important thing is that when you get your foot locked in, you're able to have your leg bend out. And so that's really important in an R1 boat. And that's where this design is almost not good, because we have such square corners. And so, like, you know, like right through here, this is a bad design. Yep, especially if I fiberglass this hard corner, there's nothing I can do about it. And that's where I was just kind of experimenting with, well, if this is the cockpit, my foot would be right in here, and then my leg would be out to the side. So I can kind of show you that this is typically how far you'd want your leg from here wedged in, up and over the tube. And so this profile, now I got to move my foot this far and still have that taper. So over here it's going to be fine, probably. This lip is close, and then let's come over here. This side might be a little bit trickier. I think it's close. Yep. Those are just the things where it's like, you put in a lot of effort, and then a sharp corner is going to ruin the day. But I was thinking about, you know, if you come in, I could even just come in with a saw and angle those corners, and then just re-cardboard that. So yeah, basically that's probably what I'll have to do, is probably come in and shape out that entire thing, but we'll see. Alright, hell yeah.